Right, so what we are going to try and do today is get an introduction to live online teaching. Okay, so everybody is kind of trying to move their education online, and what I'm going to try and do over the next 4 webinars, because I'm going to do 4 webinars, is try and introduce you into the world of online teaching. So my plan today is to look at what live online teaching is, and then on Monday or Tuesday when I do the next webinar, I'll actually teach you a lesson and try and show you how you can do that lesson. Yes, I've turned the video off deliberately. Okay, I've turned the deliberate because used to try and give you better sound. I've turned my video off. All right. Okay. If my connection comes back strongly, I'll put the video back on. All right, so let's go. So let's obviously the first thing when we have an online community is to work out where everybody's from. So your next task in the chat box is to put the country you're coming from in. Okay, let's go. Let's get the place you're coming from. I think it's going to be a battle between the Argentines and the Czechs for the biggest amount of people here. Perfect. Zoom. So I could just sit here now for the next hour and see if you let you all write into the chat box, and that will do for our webinar today. Perfect. Brilliant. So it's definitely the Czechs. And as I said in the chat box, obviously the Czech Republic I have an affinity for because it was my home for so many years, so it's great to see so many Czechs here. I'm going to go for the video again and let's see what happens. So obviously I'm going to try and look at the introduction to online learning today, but I've got the biggest class in the world at the moment because there are currently 849 students in the room. Okay, so there are 849 of you, which would obviously limit. Okay, thank you for telling me. So it would limit the amount of things I could do in the room. All right. So if you were my students, I would only have a class of maybe 30 or so people, and that would make it a lot easier to deal with. All right. Okay. So let's do another chat box task. So teaching online makes me. How would you finish that sentence? Perplexed, anxious, nervous, eager, okay, overwhelmed, awkward, zoom, uninspired. I would say uninspired. Kind of weird. Excited, insecure, challenging, eager. I'd like to read some of your names, but you're going too fast for me at the moment. A little bit disorientated. It's a very strange experience because I know there's a lot of you feeling disorientated with it. But for me, it's normal because I've been doing it for over 10 years. There's no other option now. A first time, frustrated, ready, challenging. All right. Well done to you, Anna. I'm glad there's been people that have been doing it for a long time. All right, let's stop on that one. Let's do one more chat box task, okay? Ready? I'm going to change the task again. So pause. Here we go. All right. So here's a photo from my phone. Most of you who know me know that I am a person that likes mobile phones. So here's a photo from my phone, and I have deliberately whitened it out a minute. Okay, I've deliberately whitened it out. So using the chat box, I want you to try and work out what is in the picture. So Miroslava says it's a frying pan. Vicky says it's pancakes. Driana says a pizza. Ilana says a wheel. Frying pan, omelette. Something round. So Boyan, the picture is very white. It's deliberately very white so you can't see it. Something round. Okay. A frying pan, a biscuit, that's an interesting one, a record, olives and a sauce. Maria, have you seen this photo already? Scrambled eggs. Okay, sorry, Boyan. All right, ready? There is no video, Hazima. I've turned the video off to try and give us the best sound that we can have. Sylvia, that is an almost perfect answer. Okay, you ready for the photo? This is what you could see. Yeah, if you know me from webinars, you know I always talk about food. So this is what you could see. This is a photo. I like camping, and this is a photo of me making a pizza. Sorry, Italian people, making a pizza on my campfire in a frying pan. Okay, so it's called campfire pizza. So if you want the recipe, it is a pita bread with tomato puree on it. And it's got prosciutto and olives and mozzarella on it. Okay. The good old days when we could go camping. Okay, so what I wanted to do to start was simply to have some activities to show really it is how so. Yeah, I know. I had to pick pizza because of LTARC. If people were at the LTARC conference, they know there was a story behind pizza. Okay, but let's look at what we learned. So I'm teaching online, and even though I've got 900 of you in the room, I can still do a vocab activity. So here I'd uploaded a picture to my online room, and you were using a vocab activity, and you were guessing and getting you involved in the teaching. Yeah. So I mean, this is no different in a sense to what we could do in the classroom. Just how I'm showing you it is different. And if I go backwards again, if I just go back a couple of slides to this is a typical gap fill activity. Yeah. So in a gap fill activity or a sentence completion, again I've given you a sentence and I'm asking you to finish the. Sorry, Ella. So I'm asking you to finish the sentence. Or that could have been, for example, a past simple activity. So it could have been something like yesterday I blank went shopping. Blank go shopping. So the students would then test their vocabulary in the board. So I wanted to show that when zombie hunting, well, that's probably the next step, Robert, the way the world is going. So here, so you see that I've got an interaction going with my class, or my biggest class in the world, and that I'm using fairly typical teaching activities in order for you to see how that might work. And in the second of my webinars, the one coming up next week, I'll look at that in more detail. But today I want to take the first steps. So if you're in a position where you now have to go and do an online lesson, let's look at the 5 real things that you need to think about in order to get going. Okay? So I'm going to begin with these 2 words, synchronous and asynchronous. If you came to Pete Sharma's webinar yesterday, he mentioned these 2 words. So when we talk about online teaching, we tend to use 2 words. So the word is synchronous and the word is asynchronous. Any ideas what those words mean? And I'll try to give you a clue in the picture. So live, not online at the same time. Brilliant. Yeah. So at the moment, we are synchronous. Yeah, we are synchronous because you're listening to me the same way that you would listen to me in a classroom. But asynchronous would be where the students are working at a different time and a different platform. If you did come to Pete's webinar yesterday, Pete used this slide. So I asked him if I could steal it. So synchronous would be the same time and the same place, or at the same time in a different place. So in this case, we're at the same time, but we're in different countries around the world. Thank you, Theodore. What a lovely explanation there. So asynchronous would be at a different time and a different place. So that, for example, a good example of asynchronicity is Facebook. You know, when people put a Facebook status update, you don't necessarily see it at the same time, and people comment on it over many hours. Yeah. So when we talk about online teaching, Google Classroom is a great example, Violetta. Hamisu, Twitter is a great example as well. So when we're talking about online teaching and people say, oh, I've got to go teach online, the first thing we need to ask is, well, are you doing it synchronously like we are now, or are we doing it asynchronously? And the software and the platforms and what we do would differ with each. So today and in the next one, so Susanna, Zoom would be a synchronous tool, yeah? But Google Classroom would be an asynchronous tool, although Google Classroom does allow you to have synchronicity in it, which is confusing. So today I'm looking at synchronous platforms and the steps for synchronous. So being online at the same time. And then later on, I'll be talking about asynchronous in a week or so's time. All right, so we've been told we've got to go teach online, and our first, and so we're like, what do we use? Where do we go? What should we do? Where will I go? So the first question then we perhaps are probably asking ourselves is, what platform should I use? Now, this may be dictated to you, of course, by your school or your school authority, but your first question is often, which should I use? So a lot of people are going to go Zoom, which we'll look at in a moment, and a lot of you are probably going to go Skype. All right? Alexander's giving us some good tips there on should we use a free or public one. Lots of things coming out, okay? And you can see there, LearnCube's coming up. I think, hang on, there's only two more, and you've got the that I've got on the next slide. Okay, so I am not, I haven't got everything on this slide. So this isn't everything, but I've got the ones that, most of the ones you've talked about, you've mentioned. So here we've got Skype, which everybody knows. I think most people have Skype. Obviously Skype is free, and most people have it on their classroom. This one is Zoom, and so Zoom is currently really popular. And is free, and I'm going to go into more detail in them in a moment. And Zoom have been very good in allowing it their free license to have a lot of usability during this time of pandemic. This one over here, the two exclamation marks, this is Google Hangout. Okay, so Google Hangout, if you do use Google Classroom, for example, it will be in that one. And then underneath you've got LearnCube, which is a platform designed purely for teaching and is a bit like Zoom. This is where you are now. We are in Adobe Connect now, and this is the symbol for Adobe Connect. And the software we're in, and this meeting is taking place in Adobe Connect. And then finally, I put, as I said, there are many examples. I could only put so many on the slide, but I've also picked WizIQ because this again tends to be popular in education. So the first question then perhaps is, what platform should I use? But actually, I think that is the wrong first question. And Laura, I think I'm going to go back to them, Elizabeth, on the freeness. Laura, I think your which is best for you question is better, but it's still not the right question. I think the first question we should ask ourselves is, what are my students' needs? Okay, so what do I need to be able to do with my students online is perhaps the first question. As a lot of technologists will say, if you start putting the technology before the students, you're going to be in the wrong place. Oops, I just accidentally killed my slides. You think I'd understand how to work this room, given I do it for a job. Hang on, I need to put my slides back. So, no, I just killed the slides. It was my fault. I do apologize. There you go. So the first question should be, what are my students' needs? Okay. So basically, are we needing to have the students together at one time, or are we going to get them to do work over a few weeks? So my son's school is about to close because in the UK we're closing our schools tomorrow. And the school is going to send out homework and work so they could do it any time. So that would be the needs. There would be a platform that can send out work. But if I need my students to be online at the same time, say synchronously, then I need a platform from that. Katarina, yes, and then that's the next great question. It depends on what the activity we have in mind. So if we take our diagrams a little bit further. So this is a picture that appeared on Facebook a lot this week. So you can see that, I mean, are we going to be, is it the case that we're going to have lessons as we perhaps usually would? So we're going to see the students every day or every few hours, or for a few hours during the week? Are we going to have clinics or places where the students can talk to us? Or are we going to all talk at different times online? So it would be, so it'd be more asynchronously, that we don't need to meet in the classroom. They don't need to see me on video. Okay, so the students' needs should be put first before we come to the platform. Tiziana, well, something easy for the students to use would be a good idea. So once we know the students' needs and what we think we know, then we can think about what platform to choose. Okay, so we can think about what platform we can choose, because Marina, yes, you will get them as a handout later on. But if you want them now, take a photo, take a screenshot with it. Well, Jacqueline, the platform with enough power is an interesting one at the moment. All the platforms are struggling with the fact that everybody is trying to work online. So, Stenka, the pros and cons of each. Skype, free. Yeah, everybody can use it for free. Works perfectly well. If you've got a small class, like a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1, I think Skype works fairly well. Disadvantage with it, perhaps the only way you can all hook up is that you have to share contacts, which might be a problem if you've got children, for example, sharing where people are. Not as many young people perhaps use Skype. It will allow up to 50 people on a video connection, but it doesn't, for example, do very well at keeping people in video. You can share documents with it, but you can find it hard to record. However, Skype has a really good feature called Meet Now. I don't know if you know Meet Now. So in Skype, you can use the Meet Now feature to make your classes. You can put everybody in one class as a Meet Now, and using the Meet Now feature of Skype will allow you to record and share your screen a lot better with it. So that would be some advantages and disadvantages of Skype. Zoom and Zoom, LearnCube, and Google Hangouts are all yes, it is, Alison. The Zoom, LearnCube, and Google Hangouts are all similar kind of platforms to a sense. They an advantage of them over Skype is that you don't have to share your contact details. I can just send you a link to the room and you click on it and you go into it. One of the reasons I like Zoom over Skype is that Zoom does its best to give everybody a good experience. So it holds the video very well and it holds the sound very well. Google Hangouts, so if you use a Google Classroom already, then Google Hangouts would be your natural one because it fits naturally into that. Skype, Zoom, and Google Hangouts at the top are all free in some extent. Okay, now Zoom does have a paid license, but it will allow you to use it for 40 minutes for free. And in some countries, so for example, in Italy, in China, and countries where the lockdown is happening or has happened, Zoom has removed its limitations on their free license. Now, Adobe, the one at the bottom, this green one, is more expensive. You're in an Adobe room now, okay? And so an Adobe room is, I mean, I can't speak which countries don't already have it yet, but as people are going into lockdown, the 40-minute limit has gone. 40 minutes per class, Griselda. No, 40 minutes. So basically what Zoom did is you could use a free account, but after 40 minutes, so if you had a lesson or a meeting after 40 minutes, it would close. Okay, and then you would just click on the link and reopen it. But in many countries now that are in lockdown, Zoom has removed that limit. Okay? Most people in here are K-12s. You do have to say who you are. But we noticed, yes, that's very true, Emma. It's over 3 people. I do have a paid, I have a paid license for Zoom now, but I used to use it for free. And after 40 minutes anyway, all I did is say to my students, click back on the link and we started again. So the 40-minute, so if I had a class of 90 minutes, we just took a break at 40 minutes and everybody clicked on the link and came back at the sense of it. Okay. Zoom, the basic Zoom license, Maria, will take 100 people. Okay. Yes, my video is deliberately off because bandwidth is slow, so my video is off. I know it's a shame that you can't see me, but it is. Graciela, if you work one-to-one, Skype is a good one. Oh no, I'm here to try and offer help to as many people as possible over the hour. So if one of you, if you don't like some of the details, I'm sorry, but for a lot of people it might be new. So what you need to look at is so what are my students' needs? Slack is a project tool, Gillian. Yeah, you could do asynchronous teaching on Slack, so you can send messages and you send stuff out. But as you know, one of the things that today should tell you is to go and have a look at what you want to do. Okay, but let's look at what a platform can do. So what do you need to think of? So we've thought about our students' needs, and we also need to know what our platform does, how much that will fit into our students' needs. So you can see here, for example, these are the things that a typical platforms would do. Hi, Courtney. Yeah. So most platforms you would need to have sound. You need to be able to speak to people. Most platforms you would need to have a video. You need to be able to see people. Although at times like this, when the internet is slow, then we can switch the video off. Most platforms have a chat box, so we can chat to each other. So here we are obviously using the chat box quite a lot because of the size of the room, the size of the audience. So almost all those, yes, Melinda, the video is stopped deliberately. So almost all those platforms we have, the sound, the video, and the chat box are integral to all of them. So if we think about the ones you know, Skype, Zoom, and Google Hangout and Adobe, you can see they all have sound because you can hear me. They all have video because you can see me usually, and they all have the ability to chat. So next, on top of that, what do we need to do? So are my students going to need to be able to play and share files? So if I've got a listening lesson, for example, how am I going to play the listening? How am I going to play the MP3? Would I be able to play it from my computer so people can hear it? Do I need to have my students send a PDF? So, for example, in this room in Adobe, I can play an MP3 and an MP4, but I have to upload it into the room, and that's a difficult thing to do for some people. Whereas, for example, in let me just go backwards again. In Zoom, I would just be able to play it on my computer, and it would work. Marcella, all of them really. It just depends how you do it. So, for example, in Zoom, I would just play a listening by sharing the audio from my screen. But in Adobe, I would have to upload the listening to the room as we did at the beginning. You know, let me just look at what files I've got in here. So for example, a listening file, here's my listening file uploaded to the room, and I can play it to the students. Yeah, this was the music, but it will play to the room. So if I was in this kind of room, I have to upload it, but in Zoom or Skype, I could just play it from my computer. All right. So going through our list a little bit more, do they have emojis and other tools? Kids and the young people of today, they like their emojis. Can people use emojis? Is that necessary to your lesson or not? Can you share a screen? So can I share with you things on my screen? That's important perhaps if I want to show you an image or a course book thing. So sharing my screen would be quite literally me pressing a button and sending out the what's on my screen for you to see. So in Zoom, for example, again, Zoom and Skype, if I want you to see my PowerPoint or whatever, then I would just show you from my screen and share my screen with you. But again, in something like Adobe, I would need to upload it into the room first. I'm sorry if the sound's cutting and stuff for everybody. I am actually on a good connection at the moment. So breakout rooms. Anybody know what they are? I love that. I've just asked a yes/no answer. Thank you, Gazelle. Thank you. Marquetta says yeah. I'm gonna trust her. Lindsay says yeah. We used them yesterday. Cool. Yeah. Daniela says for pair or group work. So at the moment with 900 of you in the room, I can't put you in breakout rooms. So at the moment, the interaction between, if you are my students, my interaction with you is simply me talking to you, yeah? So it would be the equivalent of the teacher stood at the front of the class talking to the students. I'm not going to do it in here because there are too many of you. I could give you all a microphone and then you could interact with me. But if you were on the microphone, you would be speaking to 900 people. So sometimes in the classroom, we have the whole class speaking to the teacher, and sometimes in the class, we have the teacher speaking to the students, yeah? But obviously, in a typical language classroom, we need the students to work in pairs, or we need the students to work in groups. And the way that can be achieved within an online room is if it has got what's called a breakout room, okay? So in a breakout room, I could switch on the breakout room and tell the room to put you into pairs or groups. And so basically within this one room, in this one space, no, Tiana, it doesn't. In this one space, you would go into your own individual spaces. Does that make sense? Yeah, so at the moment we're all in one space, but if I turned on the breakout rooms, which I can't do because there are too many of you, you would all go into your own space. So when I say to the students, I'm going to answer that question in a moment, but it's the key. So when I say to the students, I need you to work in pairs, I would put them into breakout rooms. Linda, that's a great idea. Saying, yeah, how you do it depends on the platform. So here, I could press a button and I could actually physically move you, but that would take time. Or I could just get the software to automatically put you into pairs. Okay, but so it does depend on the actual platform. So to answer some of these questions that are coming up, which platforms do it? Skype doesn't. Zoom does. I'm not sure. I don't know Google Hangouts very well. Yeah, Zoom does it really efficiently. Zenyep. On Zoom, when you click on breakout rooms on Zoom, basically in Zoom you need to go into your account and look at how you set your account up, and you'll go and you can set Zoom up to put breakout rooms and whatever. Thank you, Ahmed. I don't use Hangout very often, so I can't. But Zoom does, LearnCube does, and Adobe does. So I would just click a button. Yeah, they're saying it's coming, I know. With it, my expertise is a lot with Skype, Zoom, and Adobe. If I'm honest, not all of them. Blackboard definitely does it as well, Sinead. So you'll find the feature in your room, click the button, and it will activate the breakout rooms, and people move in. Now, Linda asked the question about whether you could monitor or not. Yeah, you can do it exactly the same way that you would do in a normal classroom. So when I'm doing a normal classroom, I move around my groups and then listen in on them. So in a breakout room, I basically jump into each room, okay? So I just move myself into each room, I listen for a bit, and I move out, okay? Oh, Button is a great one. Yeah, Alan, that's a great platform. I haven't mentioned every platform in the slide, otherwise the slide would be too big. Yeah, so you can go in and you can listen. Now, in a breakout room like Adobe, like this one, I could prepare them before my lesson, and I could actually put like a task or a PowerPoint in the room So when the students are in the breakout room, they can see the task. Once they're in the breakout room, they can switch their mics on and nobody else would hear them. Okay, only the people in the same room would hear them. If and again, by contrast, Zoom, it does one of the things I dislike about Zoom. It does the breakout rooms very effectively, but you can't prepare anything in them. When you start it, you just go into it with it. And but what Zoom has is a wonderful feature where the teacher can send a message to all the rooms at once. So I could send the task out with it. Okay. So breakout rooms are probably a necessity for us as language teachers. So go look at the software you've got or not. In the second webinar, I will show you some images of breakout rooms. Okay, but here I'm just trying to go through the basics of it. All right. So Sandra, yes, it does with it. I hope. Basically, as I finish, yes, Theodora, you can set a deadline and you can close it at any time you like. What I actually like about Zoom's ones is you can put a countdown timer on it, so it automatically disintegrates at the end of it, and they automatically come back to the room. But yeah, you have absolute control of it. And the other thing you could do is if you've automatically put the students into the separate rooms, and you don't like that that Adele is working with Adriana, for example, you can then switch them about. Okay, there is a lot to get through, so hopefully, no, Jacqueline, it doesn't. To be fair, what you could do there, and somebody I'm working with at the moment, what they do is they actually they get the students to record the audio on their phones if you want to listen back with it. Okay. So they just record the sound coming out the computer, and then they can listen to it that way. So that's quite a nice way of doing it. You've got to understand that basically they're rooms within a room, so there are some limitations of what can be done. All right. Yeah, probably are. One of the things that Zoom. So yes, Annalisa. Oh, thank you, Arla. Even in breakout rooms. All right, let's move on. So some of the other things that you could do, that your platform can do as well, is polls. So a poll, you could set up things where the students do a poll. I actually should have made one to show you, shouldn't I? So in this room, for example, I could make a poll. I can't type and speak. That's clever, isn't it? So we could have a poll like this in the middle of the screen, so the students could choose their poll. So this is the polling feature of the rooms, yeah. And again, most of the platforms that are designed for business, i.e., not Skype, have the ability to do polling. I mean, for me, it's a kind of extra thing. I think it's an extra bit of technology. You don't need. I don't think you actually need a poll. It's as easy for me to ask the question to the chat box, "Are you okay?" as it is doing a poll. But it's a good way of doing some different interaction if you want to have it. Now, usually a poll does have to be prepared beforehand. Very good for a register. That's true. If you set certainly in this room, for example, I could set a poll. That would say, I'm talking and making a poll as we speak. So I could set a poll like this if you wanted to do the register. So you don't have to do this, for example. So here you could type your name, so the students could do it there, or they could do it as a test. You're right, yeah, and type in their answers. So polls would work with that one. So there we go. And some of you are so kind. You're typing in, but you can see that you could use polls for each little thing. And again, next in the next webinar, I'll take some of these things and look at what we can do with them in each time. Yeah. Today's webinar is to give you an overview of everything. of what you should be thinking about and what there is in these platforms. And next week I'll go a little bit deeper into each one. Yeah. So I know that I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can and go through things, but also just make sure that we get a basic idea of where we are. Yeah. And the last feature then is record. The question is, do you want to record your meetings? This is recorded. We always send you a link to a recording. So do you need to have a platform that records your lessons in case anybody can't make it or in it? LMS is Pura I'm doing in 2 weeks' time because they're asynchronous. Today I'm doing synchronous platforms. I think you say it's okay to record, but I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. There are a number of issues with recordings. For example, where, yeah, exactly, Sinead. Permission is one massive thing, and I'm going to talk about that in a couple of questions' time. And also, where should I put the recording? If it's okay if I record the lesson, but where am I going to put the recording? All right. So we'll come for recording in a little bit, but I wanted to go through the things that typical platforms have. So when you're making your choice, when you're thinking about what's going on, think about which one of these things you need, or which of these things you need for the students, and this feeds back into our needs. What are the students going to do? Well, and what do we need to achieve with our students? Okay, so we'll think about this platform. Most of you have been in Adobe. For many of you, you've been to these webinars before. So when I always start online learning, both with teachers and with teachers, when I'm training teachers to use online, and with my students, I always begin with a can you quiz. I want to see if my students can do things. Okay. So in this room, as a participant, you have permission to do all these things. So can you do them? I'm just going to pause for a minute and see how many of you can do these can-do things in Adobe. All of them are possible. Okay, so you can do them all. So can you change the color of your chat? Marcella, for example, has. Priya has. Anna has. In theory, yes, that's the best answer. Sinead, is my sound and everything okay at the moment? Cool, thanks. Yeah, so then can you change the volume? So you see what I mean? So can you find the agree, disagree button? Linda, I would have expected you to be first. Linda's almost like our OUP secret moderator. She knows everything about this room. She's great to have here. Okay, Robert, you've agreed with me. Thank you. Alishka, you've got your hand up. Or is it, yeah, Alishka, I imagine. I'm putting a very Czech pronunciation on that. Dorota, well done. You've got your hand up. So yes, I could. So what is AFK? It's gaming terminology. Away from the keyboard. If you're playing online games and you move away from the keyboard, you go AFK. I am AFK. In other words, I can't take place. Okay, you don't have to do them all. I'm just giving you. The. So you see what's. Oh, Brad Miller. That's very funny. I do like that as an answer. That's brilliant. Okay. But do you see what I mean? So if we want to start using a platform, we need to think about what we could do with it. Can we do these things? This ability, this idea of giving a can do statements for what I can do is a really nice first lesson with your students. Brilliant. There you go. Sunny. Look at all of you with sunny weather. It's raining and cloudy here. Ruth, not sure how to edit your name. So if you go up to, you can't edit your name. No, I mean, that's my fault. Because the attendee list is off the screen, you can't edit your name. I do apologize. When the attendee list is on the screen, it's easy. Okay. So this for me, so this both helps you understand what, away from the keyboard, Renata. Okay, time out on that task. Everybody stop. Stop typing. Thank you very much. Well done, Sinead. Brilliant timing. Okay, and you'll notice what I'm trying to do is act with you like a teacher. So I'm calling time on that task to give and waiting to give people time to finish that task. Yeah, and I can still see if people are typing. All right, But so this can you is a double thing. When you start with online learning, then I would definitely give my students a can you quiz at the beginning. And also, I'm showing you how we're using the chat box. So basically, there's a lesson going on here. You're working together, you're working things out, and and as a teacher, I prepared my materials for it. Right, I am moving on. I'm only at question 2, and I've got 12 minutes to go to the rest. So question 3, let's go a bit quicker then. Are you ready? So question 3, when we're thinking about our platform, we do need to think about how easy it is to access it. Class, could you help out the students that don't know what AFK means, please? In the chat box. All right, so how easy is it to help the students? How easy is it to access? So how do my students access the platform? Yeah, and there's a good question coming up now. I can't do it from my mobile. Some students will access it by mobile, some will access it by computer, and they will do different things. So do I need to, how are my students going to access the lesson? Can I give them a link? Do I need their contact info? Do I have to share their contact info? Okay. So again, when we're thinking about the platform to use, we need to think about how they're going to access it and how easy is it to access from it. Can I schedule, for example, if you're working in a language school and you're using the platform, if you were in a language school or a state school, you would have many classrooms open at once in the physical space. So a lot of you might need to be in a space that replicates that. So can I open more than one room at once? Can I schedule my meetings with it? Okay. So consider how easy it is to access the room. So for Adobe, for example, for this room, you signed up, we sent you a link. In Zoom, I can schedule things, I can send them out. In Skype, I need my students' contact details. Question 4, here you go. Oh, I would imagine adults don't know a lot. So, you ready for question 4? What animal is this? Can you work out what animal is on the screen at the moment? Anna, wow, that was so fast. It was Denka, that was so fast. You've got great brains. All right, brilliant. And I was, in case you struggled, I gave you a little image to help you. Okay, and again, just we're thinking about how we can present tasks to students. So here's a vocabulary task. Okay, so this is a vocabulary task. I've made an anagram. I'm letting the students work out the anagram, and all of you cleverly thought it was elephant. Okay, so here is the real question 4. So question 4, what other things do I need? Are you ready? Sinead, can you help Jacqueline, who can't hear anymore for some reason? Okay, so here you go. Here are 4 things you need for online learning. Yeah. Any guesses as to what they are? Microphone, so that would be number 2, yes. Number 2 would be microphone, I think. Number 1 is an internet connection. You're kind of right, but not right. So headphones, number 3 is headphones. Number 2 is microphone. Marcelo, a good in internet is Zeynep. Yeah, what I did was I went. If you want to do this, just Google anagram maker, and you put in your words. You put in the words you want to make in an anagram, and it gives you alternative words. That's how I did it, and then I just copied them into a slide. Okay, but you can see here that so basically, again, if this was a lesson and this was my students, here's a typical thing I could do. I prepared the materials and I'm just using the chat board to interact. Okay, right, here come the answers then. Number 1 is good connection. Well done, Virginia. Just as I said it, you said it. So number 1 is a good connection. You obviously need a good connection. As Sinead said at the beginning, and as we're saying along the moment, the world is online, so connections are struggling. Okay? but a good connection is necessary, and preferably on cable. Okay, cable is better than Wi-Fi, but a good connection is needed. But as you will understand, from here, there are always connection issues. People drop in, drop out, whatever. When you work online, you know that it is always going to be people dropping in and out. The question as a teacher is don't panic. Okay? Number 2 is a microphone, obviously, if you want me to speak. Number 3 is headphones, and number 4 is location. So microphone is important. I'm just going to, this might mess up the connection for a second, but I just want to show you my, so my microphone is here. Let me just put my camera on. My microphone is here, yeah? It's right next to my mouth. Here is my computer. So the sound has a long way to travel, okay? So wearing a headset, and I've turned my camera off again, just for the bandwidth, okay? As soon as I put my camera on, it kills my bandwidth. Okay, it should come back again. So the camera, so the microphone headset is right in front of you, should be right in front of you. Yeah, I've turned the webcam off again. I just wanted to show you something. Headphones are good to stop any noise. If you don't wear headphones, if students are not wearing headphones and you have lots of microphones open, then the sound comes back on you. Okay, Jacqueline, I would always. I think there are moments when you would switch the camera off. But yes, I'll talk to that in a moment. But it's interesting. Watch what happens in the chat box when I switch the camera off. There is an expectation for people seeing the camera. Okay, but in fact, cameras are the things that take up the most bandwidth. So having a camera off gives you more time to do it. And number 4 is location. Okay, so number 1 was good connection, number 2 was microphone, number 3 was headphones, and number 4 is location. By location, I'm just going to drop that for a moment. In location, think about what's going to be when you're on camera. Okay, think about what what's going to be around you, what people are going to see. We're working at home, so we're going to be working where we are, and this is kind of like your this is kind of what's happened. I don't know if you remember or if you saw this, but do you remember this was very popular on the internet about a year ago. Do you know what happened to this guy? So this might not work, but we'll just see. I've got
wider region. I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me.
Yeah. So it's hilarious, and we all think this is funny, but this is kind of, this is what we now need to think about in terms of when we're going to be online, where am I going to be? And I mean, with us in lockdown, with people in lockdown, what do you do with your kids? I mean, my son is supposed to know that if he hears my voice, he's not to come into the room. But we've got to think about. We've also got to think about what can people see. So what can people see when I'm on camera? How am I going to be disturbed, and so on? And in this really useful downloadable book from the British Council, you've got this idea, that face to face we think about our appearance, we think about what the classroom looks like, we think about what the teacher looks like, and online we've got to think about it the same. And what makes a professional teacher online is actually the good quality of voice, the good background, and so on. Okay, so that's what I mean by location. I'm almost finished. Because I've been trying to answer questions as we go along, I'm going to go over time a little bit, okay? But I'm hopefully you won't mind with it. Question 5, I think, is important, is how we ensure safeguarding. We have a lot of safeguarding with our students. A lot of us are now teaching young learners online, and I think it's very important to consider how to keep them safe online. When the classroom, we do a lot of safeguarding with the students, and this is where, for example, permissions come in. Have I got permissions to record them? What am I going to do with that recording? Have I got permissions for them to be on camera? Is a parent going to be there with them? Do you see what I mean? That it's not just a question of us thinking, okay, let's go online. We do have to think about how we keep people safe online and that our education is taking place in a safe environment. And that link that's on screen now is to a really interesting article that was put up by a British website that gives some ideas on what we should be thinking about with safeguarding. Okay? So, so far then, our 4 questions have been talking about how to make our platform, our choice of platform and what we need to do with our students. We need to ensure some other things. Okay, so for example, as a teacher, you need to be comfy with your technology. Maria, before the lockdown, there was a massive online synchronous market in China. With a lot of Chinese teaching is done online by teachers beaming in from different countries. So I think the answer to that is yes. So get comfy with your technology. Go practice with it. That you cannot break technology. Go and download it, play with it, press buttons, and see what you can do. Okay. Practice. Find a colleague and practice with them. So if you're not yet teaching online, before you start, find a teacher, find one of your colleagues and play together. Practice. Just play around. Okay? Some other tips for you. Expect trouble. Things always trip you up. Okay? Just because your sound works today, it doesn't work tomorrow. It's always the case. And I would imagine, Sinead, just to you, I'll be wrapped up in about 5, okay? So, expect trouble. Things may not go well, things might go well, but sound cuts in, sound cuts out. If you accept that it might happen, you don't panic as much. Okay? But I would say, as a teacher, always plan something unimportant at the beginning of the lesson. Use that first 10 minutes in order to kind of do a warmer or something, but that's also the time when you can try and iron out any of your students' difficulties. Okay? Be good. If you've got a camera on, always use eye contact. Okay? Always try and look at the camera. The students think they're looking at you, so try and keep eye contact with your students. But at the same time, as somebody asked, turn off the camera. You don't have everything on camera all the time. If the students are doing a reading or a grammar exercise, turn the camera off. That's a good time for you to have a break. Okay? You don't need to be on the camera every moment of everything. So if they're doing a reading, if they're doing a grammar exercise, switch the camera off. Take a drink of water. Have a look. Be yourselves. Most of you know me virtually. You be yourself. I would like to think that what you see of me on camera is how you would see me if you saw me in a real classroom. The more that you are yourself, the more that you can be enthusiastic, the better you will convey it. Okay, you might be nervous and you might be in an unfamiliar area, but our job is to not convey that to our students. If you look negative about it, they will feel negative about it. Okay? Just try and be yourself as much as you can. Because that makes it easier for everybody. They're as nervous as you. They're as worried as you. So if you look normal, they will feel it's normal. Personalize and acknowledge and encourage. What I have tried to do, as I've seen as I put your comments in, I try and give your name. So Martin's talking about something, I try and say, that's a good point, Linda. Or, so respond to things that are coming up in the chat box. Use the people's names. Encourage and acknowledge people the same way that you do in a normal classroom. So let's finish with one activity. So you can't see me. I'd love to have shown you this. If I'll get told off for putting my camera on again. But I've got a dice in my hand. Okay, I'm going to throw my dice. So just to prove that it's a normal classroom, I've got my dice. Can you hear it? Hang on. There's my dice. I'm going to throw my dice now, and it's number 2. So let's have a healthy food. Okay, so our vocabulary revision for the end of the lesson is healthy food. So in the chat box, let's have some healthy food. There you go. And you see, again, exactly the same way as I would in the classroom, we have an activity going on. Yeah, the students are churning out vocabulary, and so fast I can't say. I can see fish, cucumber, carrots, whatever, yogurt, fruit, bananas, and so on. Okay, so just to reiterate, so what I've tried to do today is give you an introduction to what synchronous online learning is. I tried to show you what you should think about what's in a platform, and tried to show you how to think. Somebody said, yeah, Gianna, the Czechs will always say beer. To the Czechs, beer is food. So I've tried to show you how how rooms work, how platforms work, and what we need to think about in order to get started. Okay, I have blogged about this on the OUP website, so you can go get the handout, the handout from there, so to speak. Next week, I'm gonna, in the second of the synchronous workshops, I'm gonna look at those features in more detail. So how can we use a poll? What can we use it for? What can we do? How can we combine a course book intro? And we'll see how we go with that. I have tried to answer questions as they've come up. I know there are so many more now. I will try and answer them next week as we come up with it. May I wish you, so next week what we're going to look at. You can go sign up at the webinar page. I hope it has been useful to you. Thank you so much for coming in, sticking up with the sound, and I will hopefully see you all next week for the second part of this. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks very much, Sean. Thank you all very much for joining us today. We do hope that you enjoyed the webinar. I can see by the speed of the chat box and the amount of questions and thanks there that there's lots of good ideas and things for you to get started with on your journeys or further journeys into online teaching. We do hope that you enjoyed the webinar. Just to remind you that we will be sending a follow-up email in the next couple of days, and what you'll find in this email is a link to the recording of this webinar, a request for your feedback, a handout, and a certificate of attendance. And we will also include a link where you can find out about future webinars for us, and we do hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much for joining us again, and thank you very much, Sean, for your presentation. Just before I leave and close the room, I'm going to drop in that link to some resources for learning at home. I'll just drop it in a few times so that you can try and gather it. Okay, thank you very much and have a great afternoon.